Hey, it's Tim Crawford with Avoa here, and thought I would just take a few minutes and do a quick summary of the SAP SuccessFactors SuccessConnect conference and my key takeaways and perspective. This is my first video, so I'd love to hear what you think after you've listened through it. First and foremost, this is my first trip to Lisbon, Portugal. And it's been an incredible trip, incredible visit. The people, the culture, the city. I've had a chance to walk around the city and explore it a little bit. And it's incredibly beautiful. One of the things that kind of stands out here in Lisbon is a pastry called Pastries de Nata. And this is a Portuguese egg custard tart. They're really small, but absolutely delicious. It was first created in the early 1800s by Catholic monks at the Geronimo's monastery, which is actually just a little bit down the road here from the conference. And what's interesting about it is that the monks would use it to create revenue for their different needs, and they would be using egg whites for starching clothing, but they'd have these egg yolks that they would then use to create different pastries, and hence Pasties de Nata was born. But back to the conference. So, 3 days over. It was spanned over 3 days. The keynotes were fabulous. Dan Beck, Marianne Abajay, Laura Albert. I mean, all three really took us through a great conversation, and then we had some one-on-one and Q&A time with each of them. And I'll say it was really good to hear how they're progressing through their journey with the product. But it was also great to see a number of customers on stage talking about their stories and how they've evolved through this journey too. And it wasn't just a success lap of, hey, we had great success and here we go and you should too. But it was actually getting into some of the meat and potatoes of it, which I really appreciated. And I think prospects and other customers would really appreciate as well. In addition to each of the leaders of the SuccessFactors unit within SAP speaking and the customers, today they closed out. Marianne Abajay did an interview, one-on-one interview with Amal Clooney, who is well known. Not that she's just married to George Clooney, but she is an incredible woman, and she has done incredible work in human rights. She's an attorney, and she talked about her story of how she came about. And it was very insightful, but inspiring at the same way. And it was just really a joy to listen to her in the first person of kind of what she experienced and what she's even experiencing today and the atrocities that are happening around the world that she's still involved with. On one hand, it's really kind of disappointing that this is the world we live in, but it's really good to hear that there are people like her that are really trying to make a difference, and she really is making a difference. And so that was a great way to close out the conference, and I think Marianne did just a fabulous job of kind of tying that into the HR conversation. But in addition to the keynotes, there were three takeaways that kind of stood out for me. The first one is around skills, and skills is something that has been discussed for a number of years now. How do we get the right skills to the right people? How do we help employees kind of build up their knowledge and their experience, and as they grow along their path of success, how do we ensure that they get the right attention that helps them meet their goals and objectives? And so that's been an important storyline for SAP SuccessFactors for some time now. The piece that's evolving, and I think it really shows a positive maturing of the product and also of the leadership and where they're going, is that they're now thinking about how to evolve that employee growth aspect, by increasing the value for and of the employees. So, how do you start to ensure that they're getting more of what they need in the right way, in a more direct way? And that in turn becomes valuable for the company and creates a much better relationship between the company and the employee. So, that was takeaway number one. Number two was that their team is really looking to find ways to reduce the friction of the employee experiences. And this is really an important aspect because when you think about all of the components within the HR stack, all the policies, all of the plans, like health plans, for example, payroll, all of the regulatory requirements, it's a pretty complicated space in its own right. And for employees themselves to try and navigate that can be really trying. And so there's traditionally a lot of friction that exists within this process. One of the things that the SuccessFactors team is doing is finding ways to reduce that friction. And so now with the advent of AI, you're starting to see it come up more and more through summarization, as well as helping employees get to the information they need as quickly as possible. One of the tools that SAP has recently created, and it just had its first anniversary, is Joule. And think chatbot goes agent goes really informative tool, online tool that employees, managers, and administrators can leverage to get to the right information as quickly as possible. And what's really interesting about this is it's more than just a tool for success factors in the HR stack, but it also has the capability to branch beyond just HR into the other aspects of the SAP portfolio. And so that gets really important when you start to think about manufacturing and people into finance and sustainability and the other components that play within the SAP portfolio. And so you're starting to see some crossover here between HR and these other pillars within the company, but then also within the product. And Joule is kind of sitting there as a tool to help build those bridges. And I think that's a really positive move for SAP. But more importantly, when you get to the employee themselves, this becomes a really powerful tool that they can then tap into, which just makes the experience that much better. And then the third item is that I'm starting to see more integration and discussion, similar to the points that I just made about Joule, but more integration and discussion between HR and IT. And this is a piece that historically has not come together. The CHRO and the CIO don't necessarily have a strong relationship historically. But as we go through time, it's going to become increasingly more important for those two roles to come together. And one of the things that I saw in the conversations that I was party to is that SAP is thinking about that and starting to put pieces in place to actually execute on that. And I think that's a really kind of important move, is how to really bridge that gap between what historically might have been a space, that being HR, separate from the rest of the company. That's not a comment specific to the tool, but rather just functionally within any given company. And so that is something that is good to see, and something that's going to be important for SAP and others to start to collaborate and work on. But those were the three kind of takeaways: is that evolution of the skills piece of it. So more than just skills ontology, but looking at how to increase value for employees, managers, and ultimately the company. Number two is the reduction of friction in terms of employees, managers, and administrators getting to the information they need more readily and more quickly, which just improves the satisfaction that they have. And then the third is that integration between HR and other functions outside of HR. I will say the vibe here at the conference was really positive. I attend a lot of conferences, and I'll say that a lot of them are positive, but this one has kind of an emotional component to it that is really really seen. You really see this in the interactions with the people and the way they react to the keynotes, the way they react to one another. And that could be in part a function of we're talking about people, right? These are HR professionals that are largely here at this conference. But I think that also talks to the importance that they see in using technology and tools and interfacing that with people in the best way possible to bring the best out of people. So that's my takeaway here from Lisbon, Portugal. It's been a great week. Met some fabulous people, got to see some fabulous things around Lisbon. Definitely hope to come back someday. One of the things that I thought was really interesting on my walking tour, and it's actually just outside my window, is the April the 25th bridge. And when I first saw it, I was like, wait a second, that looks just like the Golden Gate Bridge. And wouldn't you know it, it was actually built by the same people who built the Golden Gate Bridge. So there's a lot of similarities there. Check out my Instagram feed. You'll see pictures, personal pictures from Lisbon and my walkabout. So hopefully you found this useful. It's my first video. I'd love to kind of get your feedback. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Would you like to see more of something or less of something? But that's it now from Lisbon, and we'll talk soon. Bye.